There is a moment, right before a man breaks, where you can hear it in his words, before you ever see it in his actions. Weakness has a vocabulary. It has favorite sentences, familiar excuses, worn smooth phrases that slide out before a man even realizes what he is admitting. And once you learn to hear it, you will never unhear it again, not in the mouths of strangers and not in your own. The Stoics understood this 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who buried his own children and led armies through plague and war, wrote his private journal not to complain, but to correct himself. Seneca, exiled and eventually ordered to end his own life, spent his final hours teaching his students how to die well. Epictetus was born a slave, crippled by a master's cruelty, and still became one of the greatest teachers of freedom the world has ever known. None of them were strangers to suffering, none of them had it easy, and none of them in their darkest hours reached for the 6 phrases you are about to hear. Because these 6 phrases are not simply words, they are confessions. They reveal in a single sentence that a man has quietly handed his power to something outside himself and stopped noticing he did it. Listen closely. You may have said one of these today and not even realized what it cost you. Each one sounds harmless on its own. A throwaway line, a moment of venting, a joke among friends. But string enough of them together across enough years, and you get a man who has quietly trained himself into powerlessness, one comfortable sentence at a time, without ever choosing it on purpose. 1. It's not my fault. This is the phrase of a man who has outsourced his life to circumstance. The market crashed. My parents didn't raise me right. She left me first. Every sentence hunts for somewhere else to place the weight, some outside force to carry what he refuses to carry himself. Epictetus built his entire philosophy on a single dividing line. Some things are within your control, and some things are not. Weather, other people's opinions, the actions of your enemies, none of that is yours to command. But your judgments, your effort, your response, that is yours, entirely and always, in every circumstance life ever hands you. A weak man searches the wreckage for someone to blame. A Stoic searches the same wreckage for what is still his to build. The circumstance is rarely the real problem. The refusal to own your response to it, that is the problem, and it is the only part of the story you are ever actually responsible for. Picture 2 men who lose the same job on the same day. One spends the afternoon explaining to anyone who will listen why the company was doomed, why his manager never liked him, why the timing was rigged against him from the start. The other spends the afternoon updating his resume. Same circumstance, 2 completely different men, revealed entirely by the sentence each one chose to say first. 2. I don't have time. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire stretched across 3 continents, fought wars on the frontier, and still found time each night to write to himself, to examine his conscience, to become better than he was that morning. He had every excuse available to a man in power. He used none of them. I don't have time is almost never true. What is true is, this is not a priority for me. But that sentence requires honesty, and honesty is heavier to carry than a convenient excuse. The Stoics knew that time is the one truly non-renewable resource a man owns. Seneca warned that we are not given a short life. We make it short through the way we waste it, hour by careless hour, scroll by mindless scroll. A weak man protects his comfort. A strong man protects his hours because he knows exactly what they are worth. 3. That's just how I am. This is surrender dressed up as self-acceptance. It sounds like confidence. It is actually a refusal to grow, spoken with a shrug instead of an apology, offered as a closed door where an open one used to be. The Stoics did not believe character was fixed. They believed it was forged daily through discipline and reflection. The same way a blacksmith beats shape into raw iron, one strike at a time until something useful emerges. Cato the Younger was not born with unbreakable will. He built it through cold mornings, plain food, and a refusal to let comfort dictate his choices. Character is not a diagnosis handed down at birth. It is a practice, repeated until it hardens into identity. The moment a man says, "That's just how I am," he has stopped practicing and quietly renamed the stopping a personality. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism itself, lost everything in a shipwreck and washed up in Athens with nothing but his life. He did not decide that his misfortune had fixed his character in place. He walked into a bookshop, heard a philosopher being read aloud, and rebuilt himself from the wreckage upward. A shipwreck became the beginning of an entire school of thought that would outlast empires. Nothing about that story suggests a man clinging to "that's just how I am." 4. "I don't care what people think," said loudly, and usually to a room full of people whose opinion he clearly cares about a great deal. This phrase is rarely spoken by a man who has achieved indifference. It is spoken by a man still fighting for it, and losing, and trying to convince the room otherwise. True Stoic indifference to outside opinion is quiet. It does not need an audience to confirm it. Marcus Aurelius never announced that he didn't care what Rome thought of him. He simply governed by his own standard, and let the judgment of others fall where it may, unremarked and unanswered. A man who has to declare his indifference has not yet earned it. The declaration itself is the tell. The crack in the armor, he insists, isn't there. Real indifference does not defend itself, because it has nothing left to defend. It simply acts, absorbs the criticism that follows, and keeps moving. The loud version is a performance for an audience the speaker still desperately wants to convince. The quiet version needs no audience at all, because it stopped asking for permission a long time ago. 5. "I deserve better." This phrase feels like self-respect. Often it is self-pity wearing self-respect as a mask. The Stoics were deeply suspicious of the word deserve. Life makes no promises and owes no debts. Fortune, as Seneca described it, only ever lends. It never gives outright. Everything you have, your health, your position, the people you love, is on loan and can be recalled at any moment without explanation or apology. A weak man measures his life against some imagined entitlement and grows bitter when the world fails to pay up on a debt it never agreed to owe. A strong man asks a different question entirely. Not, "What do I deserve?" but "What am I doing with what I have already been given?" One question breeds resentment that curdles a man from the inside out. The other breeds gratitude, and gratitude is a far stronger foundation for a good life than any entitlement could ever be. 6. "Life isn't fair," true. Also, beside the point, the Stoics never argued that life was fair. They built an entire philosophy around the assumption that it wasn't, and asked a sharper question instead. Given that unfairness is guaranteed, what will you do with the time you are handed anyway? Marcus Aurelius opens his private writings with a long list of gifts he received from the people who shaped him. But he wrote those words while an empire pressed in around him, while betrayal and plague and grief arrived from every direction at once. He didn't spend his ink complaining that the universe owed him a smoother reign. He spent it preparing himself for the reign he actually had, unfair as it was. Life isn't fair is a fact. Used as an excuse, it becomes a cage a man builds around himself and then blames someone else for locking. Used as a starting point, it becomes the very reason a disciplined man rises early, trains his mind, and refuses to wait for permission from fortune before he begins to build something worth having, fair conditions or not. The real test. So here is the real test. Not whether you have said these 6 phrases before. Nearly every man has, at some point, in some weak and unguarded hour. That much is simply human. The real test is whether you keep reaching for them once you know exactly what they cost you, once you can hear the surrender inside them. Weakness is not a character flaw carved into a man at birth. It is a set of habits, spoken quietly enough that most men never notice they are choosing them, repeated so often they start to feel like truth instead of choice. And if habits can be chosen, they can also be unchosen, one honest morning at a time. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They promised something better, a strong one, earned through discomfort rather than avoided because of it. Every single morning is another chance to close your mouth around the excuse and open it instead around the discipline. That choice, and only that choice, is entirely, completely, unshakably yours, and no circumstance, no unfairness, no bad inheritance of luck can ever take it from you.